It seems like a silly question. It's just what they do, right? But what if I told you that for most of history, ghosts were actually pretty chatty? They gave terrifying speeches, begged for lost loves, and warned people about their impending doom. The single, startling word boo is a pretty recent invention in the long, chilling history of the supernatural. For hundreds of years, boo wasn't meant to be scary at all. So how did this one little word become the go-to line for ghouls everywhere? The journey to find out takes us back 500 years, from the foggy hills of Scotland to the pages of gothic novels, and uncovers the hidden history of our favorite spooky sound. Part 1. The Chatty Ghosts of the Past. Before ghosts learned to just say boo, they had a lot more on their minds. If you ran into a spirit in the 16th, 17th, or even 18th century, you were way more likely to get an earful than a jump scare. Early ghosts in stories and folklore were surprisingly articulate, often coming back from the great beyond with very specific and very verbal things to do. They were characters in a story, not just a sudden noise in the dark. Take the ghosts in Old English and Scottish ballads, for example. These weren't mischievous sheet figures trying to spook you. In songs like Sweet William's Ghost or The Unquiet Grave, spirits would return to their old flames for complex, emotional conversations. They'd talk about grief, broken promises, and the whole being separated by life and death thing. These ghosts were tragic figures, known for their sad monologues, not a single startling sound. This trend of talkative spirits kept right on going with the rise of Gothic literature. When Horace Walpole published The Castle of Otranto in 1764, he kicked off a whole new kind of horror, but his ghosts were still far from silent. They were dramatic, sometimes long-winded beings that groaned, sighed, and even spoke in full sentences to move the plot forward and build that creepy, dreadful mood. During this time, the fear of ghosts came from what they represented: death, sin, a past that won't stay buried, and what they had to say about it. A sudden boo would have been completely out of place. The horror was in the message, not the medium. For centuries, a ghost's main tool was language. But that was all about to change. Part 2. Where did boo even come from? The word boo didn't start its career in a haunted house. Its origins are actually way more ordinary, found in the green hills of Scotland. Early versions of boo, like bo, popped up in writing as far back as 500 years ago. But back then, it had nothing to do with scaring people. One of the first clues to its original job comes from the 16th century with the classic children's game Bo Peep. This tells us the word wasn't meant to terrify, it was meant to startle in a playful way, to create a little moment of surprise. The sound itself is what experts call onomatopoeic, a word that sounds like what it is. Boo is a short, explosive puff of air that's easy to say and naturally surprising. So, how did this simple sound, used to make a baby giggle, start its slow crawl toward the supernatural? The word seems to have been a common exclamation in northern England and Scotland for centuries, often used to describe something that appears suddenly. By the 1730s, writers noted that BO was a word used in the north of Scotland to frighten crying children. The great Scottish novelist Sir Walter Scott later connected the sound to a frightening goblin-like figure, a bogle, which was said to haunt the countryside. This is the first real link between the word and a scary supernatural being. The sound was used to bring up the idea of a monster to scare kids into behaving. The ghost wasn't making the sound yet, but the people describing the ghost were. The seeds of a spooky transformation had been planted. Part 3. The Great Ghostly Rebranding. So we've got a playful sound from a kid's game and a local term used to talk about goblins. But when did boo officially become the ghost's catchphrase? That big change seems to have happened in the 19th century, a time when our whole relationship with the dead was getting a massive makeover. This was the era of spiritualism, a movement that started in the late 1840s and became obsessed with contacting the other side. Seances, mediums, and automatic writing were suddenly all the rage. People weren't just telling ghost stories anymore, they were actively trying to talk to spirits. As interest in the paranormal exploded, the way ghosts were portrayed in popular culture changed too. The eloquent, tragic spirits of old books started to fade, replaced by something simpler, more immediate, and a lot louder. Newspapers from the mid-1800s are filled with stories of hauntings, and it's right here that Boo finally makes its ghostly debut. Reports of haunted houses and pranks began to describe people imitating ghosts, not by groaning or rattling chains, but by shouting "Boo" to startle the living. This was a huge turning point. Boo was now officially in the ghost impersonator's bag of tricks. It was a sound everyone recognized as an attempt to mimic a spirit and get a quick scare. The logic was simple: ghosts are scary and boo is a scary sound. The ghost was being simplified. Instead of delivering a long speech about its tragic past, the modern ghost could get the same result: fear, with just one efficient syllable. It was the perfect soundbite for an increasingly fast-paced world. The ghost had been rebranded, and Boo was its new, terrifyingly simple slogan. Part 4: A World of Spooky Noises. While the English-speaking world was making Boo the official sound of ghosts, spirits in other parts of the world were sticking to their own terrifying tunes. The idea of a ghost saying "boo" is actually incredibly specific to our culture. If you travel the globe, you'll find that ghosts make all sorts of different noises. In Ireland, for instance, you wouldn't hear a ghost say "boo." You'd hear the horrifying wail of the banshee. This spirit isn't trying to give you a quick jump scare. Her long, mournful scream is a death omen, a warning of tragedy for certain families. Her cry is all about sorrow, not a playful fright. Head over to Germany, and you might run into a poltergeist. The name is German for noisy ghost, and it definitely lives up to it. But it doesn't talk or shout. Instead, a poltergeist makes its presence known with loud bangs, objects flying across the room, and other unexplained chaos. It's a physical haunting, not a verbal one. In Asia, the sounds of spirits are different again. In Japanese folklore, ghosts known as yūrei are often shown as being creepily silent or letting out sad cries of regret. The horror comes from their quiet, unsettling presence, not a sudden shout. Similarly, in Chinese traditions, spirits called hungry ghosts are said to moan and cry, their sounds reflecting their endless suffering, not an attempt to startle someone. This trip around the world shows us that Boo isn't some universal law of the supernatural. It's a unique cultural invention. Part 5: The Modern Boo in Pop Culture. If the 19th century gave birth to the ghostly Boo, the 20th century made it a celebrity. The final step in its journey from a little-known Scottish exclamation to a global phenomenon was its takeover of mass media. As ghost stories moved from the fireside to the movie screen and comic books, ghosts needed to be instantly recognizable. The complicated, talkative spirits from old literature were just too slow for modern entertainment. What the world needed was a simple, iconic shorthand for ghost, and Boo was the perfect fit. The commercialization of Halloween played a huge part in this. As Halloween grew into a major holiday, especially for kids, its symbols all became standardized. The witch got her cackle, the vampire got his hiss, and the ghost got its boo. It's short, it's easy for a kid in a costume to say, and everyone in English-speaking cultures knows it's a playful attempt to scare. Just think of Casper the Friendly Ghost. His whole deal is that he's friendly because he can't say boo convincingly. The word itself became the definition of what a ghost is supposed to do. This kind of simplification happens all the time in pop culture. We take complex figures from mythology and boil them down to their most basic traits. We did it with vampires, turning them from the diverse ghouls of Eastern European folklore into the suave, cape-wearing characters we know today. And we did the same thing with ghosts. The media created a simple, marketable version of a ghost, and that ghost says boo. It's a sound that carries the entire weight of a haunting in one explosive syllable. Today, boo is so deep in our collective consciousness that asking, "Why do ghosts say boo?" almost feels like asking why the sky is blue. It's just the way things are. So why do ghosts say boo? As it turns out, the answer is a wild ride through history. For centuries, ghosts were anything but simple. They were tragic storytellers and dramatic figures who spoke in full sentences. But a little word, born in Scotland and used in a children's game, started a 500-year journey. It went from a playful sound to a word used to describe a scary goblin, before finally being picked up in the 19th century as the perfect startling shout for a new, streamlined kind of ghost. Powered by mass media and the rise of Halloween, boo became the go-to sound for spirits in the English-speaking world. It works because its short, sharp sound hits our natural startle reflex, giving a quick, reliable scare. But as we've seen, it's far from the only sound a spirit can make. The wailing banshees, silent yūrei, and noisy poltergeists of the world show that how we imagine the supernatural is deeply tied to our own culture and history. The story of Boo is a perfect example of how folklore can change and adapt over time, turning a complex tradition into a single, iconic, and wonderfully spooky sound. If you had fun digging into this spooky bit of history, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. And let us know in the comments, what other spooky words or traditions should we look into next?